Now that we have our bales planted out, we want to come back and sort of refine our irrigation system. We have a drip system installed, and so next to plants, for instance, that use lots of water, like a tomato, we're going to install a specific dripper emitter that emits a significant amount of water. This is a 4-gallon per hour emitter, as compared to the one we'll put next to our pepper plant at the other end of the bale, which is a 1-gallon per hour emitter. Depending on the water consumption of your plant, you're going to want to use a different emitter next to each one. Now, how to determine how much water a plant is going to use? How many fruits does it have? How big are the fruits? Are they fruits that are very water intensive? Cucumbers, tomatoes, all of your melons use lots of water. Other plants like beans and peas don't have quite as much fruit volume, so they don't tend to use as much moisture. So that's kind of a good rule of thumb. It's how big is the fruit, how juicy is the fruit. If you've got a lot of juicy fruits, you need a lot of water. So use an emitter that gives you a little bit more water per hour, gallons per hour. It'll tell you on the bag of each emitter how many gallons per hour. So it's sort of a good way you can judge how to do that. In order to install the emitter, the first thing we need to do is punch a hole near our plant in our main drip line. We use a little tool to do this. Once you make a hole, you need to insert your short little drip line. We're going to put a connector in one end. The other end of that drip line goes into our main feeder. And on the end of this, we install our little emitter. This is a red one. Red ones, at least this particular brand, the red ones give you 4 gallons per hour, which is pretty good for a tomato. We're not going to run these for a full hour, of course, but that's just the rate that it gives you is 4 gallons per hour. After a half a gallon or so on this tomato, it's going to be plenty moist. So we certainly wouldn't run it for an hour. And you can let that emitter rest right next to your tomato plant. If you want to use a little piece of wire, you can make a little harness and punch it right down into the bale. So now we're going to install a drip emitter next to this other tomato. But this tomato happens to be planted right next to a 1 gallon per hour emitter that's already built in to this emitter tube that we're using, the master feeder tube. So we don't need quite as much water on this particular tomato. It also happens to be a heirloom variety, so it's not going to get as big. It's probably not going to use quite as much water. So we'll punch a hole next to this one, and we're just going to install a 1 gallon per hour emitter next to this tomato. You'll hear it snap when you get that connector inserted into the tube. You'll hear a little popping noise that lets you know that it's nice and secure inside.